Something else you can try in Hickory collecting is to find a particular model of club that you like. Now, we've been through the makers, so you can see here that's stamped with a star there, which means it's Gibson of Kinghorn. But they did also, many manufacturers would produce different models as well. You can find the ones with different players' signatures on them and things. But this is as it says there, the Genii model. It was designed by Hugh Logan, so it's got this lovely big H Logan stamp on it. So you'll find that on most of them. This one's a driving iron, sold out of Burnett Fink, which was a sort of department store in London at the time. And this one's even got a patent on it, which you can still look up and see what the patent was applied for back in the 20s or whenever it was. And in this case, it's to make it adjustable. So this was the clever bit of the club that made it. You could hammer some more loft on it or take some loft off if you wanted. Whatever you could make it more adjustable. And it does actually work like that. I have done that on some of these clubs, and it does seem to work. But what you'll find then in this particular model is this little notch here, right? And as you set up to it, as you look down on it, you'll also find a little bit of offset on these irons, which makes them very, very modern looking and incredibly playable. If you sit down and look at this and look at the old classic I2, look, it's got a little notch on it. It's got some offset. Obviously, this doesn't have all of that lovely perimeter weighting on the back of it, but it's an incredibly modern looking clubs, and they really feel and play beautifully. So I got one by accident, as you do, and thought, oh, that's really nice, and looked it up and said, oh yeah, this is a model. So I've started collecting, and now we'll go through all the different sort of types of iron you can get and all the different things you can find stamped on the back and the different shapes and sizes if you start going down the route of collecting one particular model. So there's Maxwell's are very popular. They're produced normally by Gibson as well, but you'll find other ones with the player's stamps on the back. But if you're looking for things that are really sort of typologically different, they're different to look at because they're a different model, there's a lot of fun to be had here as well. So here they are in their entirety, the result of many happy hours scouring eBays and auction sites and talking to collectors to try and find as many clubs as I could from the same model, from the Genii iron. So this goes from the driving irons here, and we'll look at the lower lofted ones up to the medium irons. Then you have the mashies, different things like jiggers and lofting irons, mashie niblicks and niblicks, different types of putters, and another club here which we'll get to at the end, which was also designed by the same guy, Hugh Logan. So we'll start having a look at these and really just give you an idea of the kind of clubs you can find. So we've already seen the driving iron. That's probably one of the least lofted clubs, much deeper face than the next load you'll find when you start looking at the cleeks. So this has got a nice combination of grooves and dot punch punched on the face, and this one I've used an awful lot. This is just standard cleek. There's the signature on it. There's the Genii, right? So that puts it in the right sort of bucket. Next one is a strange cleek. This one still has all the right stampings on it, but it doesn't have the notch. I suspect what was happening here was they had a successful club. They had the stamps sitting around the factory, and things were just getting pumped out. Why not put the signature on it? Why not put the model? Because it doesn't actually have. You wouldn't actually call that a Genii iron to look at it. So that's interesting. Also fun. This is a Genii model that doesn't have the H Logan stamp on it. So a couple of oddities there to start with, but it does have the right look. It's a lovely shallow faced one. That's very, very usable. Really lovely club. But it does, for some reason, they didn't include the signature on that one. This one is a driving cleek. So loft-wise, slightly less, but again, because they're adjustable, you don't know if someone's hammered that off later. It's nice, it's shallow-faced, it's got a load of offset. It's got all the nice stampings on the back of it. But so they'd had cleeks and they had driving cleeks. And mashie cleeks. So again, you don't find a lot of those. You've got the standard sort of irons you go through, but these are all slightly, just a little bit different. Again, stamps on that one not as good, but a really, really lovely club. A snapped one. We got here That's another Mashie clique. Again, it's got all the stamps on it. A little bit random where they've been placed, but they've managed to squeeze them all on. I couldn't even see what that was. The medium iron. Yep, that's we've had this one on before. This is the one stamped Ted Ray at Ganton. Again, lovely nice stamp on it. It does look like there's a bit of hammer action going on there. Someone might have tried to take some loft off of this at one stage in its life. But absolute beauty, that one. A mid iron. Again, nice stamps on it. So medium iron, mid irons. Now we're down to 4-5 iron. An awful piece of reshafting that's happened there. That one's got to get redone at some stage, because that probably wouldn't last an awful lot of shots actually out on the course. Another medium iron. This one has got a huge deep face on it. Really, really quite sort of spectacularly deep, and you know, nice club to hit. Little notch, high toe there. Just looks so much like a ping. Looks so much like later on. Obviously, this one's completely smooth face, so that's a little bit different. I think this is a medium iron. That bit's rubbed off. The fun bit here is that the face is so crazy. That looks like a sort of, it might have been smooth and someone's tried to add the holes on it later, because they're really sort of eccentric. They don't look like the factory dot faces at all. Does it make any difference to hitting it? No, not in the slightest. I can't tell. But that's a really nice, typical sort of, got the high toe there, you got the little notch. That's a lovely club. Another sort of mid iron here. Again, lower on the stamp, so no patent number on that one. This is more what you find when you find the dot punch faces done in the, probably more likely to have been done in the factory. Those lines are really straight. The dot pretty uniform, not like the other one there. I think this was the first one I got. So there you go, lovely dot punch face again. That's a Mashie. With the notch, the high toe, a load of offset. And this one's really lofty, this one. It's kind of, it's more like an 8 iron than a 7 iron, so it fits nicely in the bag if you're going with like a jigger, this, and then straight down to a Mashie niblick. You can have a very playable little set there. Another snapped one. That's a more standard Mashie. That probably, you know, that's a little bit different. That's probably close to 7 iron loft. That will go a little bit further than that other one. And again, no patent number on this one. Notch is not terribly visible. Now, how different would that be from a normal iron? Not massively, but enough. This was the white whale that I had for a while. This is the wee Mashie. So when I was getting this collection together, I contacted Tad Moore, golfing legend, who also collects Gibsons, to see if he had any insights, and he sent me a photo of a catalogue from 1922 or something that had a wee Mashie in it. And I then spent the next, I spent years looking for a wee Mashie and speaking to a lot of people, you know, very knowledgeable in the golf world, who'd never even heard of one. But lo and behold, in an auction, in a job lot, managed to find one. So that really sort of nicely sort of rounded off the, well, until I find another one, that rounded off the collection. No stamps on this. Eccentric, crazy loads of stuff on the face, but there's enough there for me to suspect that was a Genii. Really, really odd sort of, you know, this might be because it, you know, loft's been hammered off it or something. It might be because it's been changed over the years. But that little notch, that sort of top edge on it, really does scream to me that that's a Logan, even if there's no visible stamps on the back in the slightest. I still think that lives here. Bit more obvious, that's a deep face Mashie. The only one of this lot that isn't either plain, you know, that's a funny sort of, that's a very atypical groove pattern for these irons. But again, there's the notch, there's the leading edge. That's a, you know, another one, nice one sits in there. Not sure if I've ever actually used that. Snapped. That's the jigger. Again, that took me a while to find. And again, that looks like any jigger. That looks like any jigger you'll find anywhere. There's nothing very particularly Genii about it, other than the stamp and the Logan. There's no patent number on it. It's a nice club, but again, it's not. It lives here because it's got the stamps, but not because it's really special in terms of its typology or how different it looks. This one, however, does have the stamps and stuff, and this is a lofter, which is one of the craziest clubs I've ever found in the Hickory world. It's got about an 8-iron loft, but a 5-iron shaft on it, and not just because someone's reshafted it later with a bigger shaft. The lie suggests it did have a very long club on it. So the other ones seem to be pretty standard. They're all in the same sort of sphere, but this one is just completely erratic and different. And also, this one is slightly odd because it's not made by Gibson's. This is made by Spence and Gourlay and was sold out of Gamages, which was a department store in London. It's stamped Hugh Logan, but if you look at it, there's a loft. There says lofter on the bottom. They actually had a bit of an argument about this, and there were legal proceedings about who had the patent and who could actually sell these Genii irons. And between Gamages and I'm pretty sure it was Gibson's or Burnett Fink or one of the other department stores. So that's the only one I've got that isn't actually a Gibson. Mashy Niblix. Again, no grooves on this one. Decent notch on it. Lovely round face on it. That looks very very typical for this make of iron. But then it kind of disappears a little bit on that one. So yes, it's a Mashy Niblix because it's stamped on the back. It's got all the right stamps on it. But again, that if you just saw it, that wouldn't scream to me that this was this type of iron. It's only really it's the stampings that make it not how the face is shaped, or not the model. Likewise, some of the Niblix. You got much lovely big faces, so you can see all the stamps really clearly, the patent numbers, everything really, really beautiful. But nothing really sort of shouting out to say that's definitely a Logan. I can see that one from a mile away. Likewise here, this one's got an insane amount of loft on it. Actually, this one is like a lob wedge or something. Maybe there's a little bit more of a notch there. Maybe that's nearly not an offset. That's nearly an onset there. That's nearly coming back at you. But it just seems that the short irons don't look quite the same. And even then, this is practically a rut iron, right? The size of that is absolutely tiny compared to the other Niblix. It's got a load of loft on it, but it is stamped Logan and it is stamped Genii. They must have had a sort of big stamp and a small stamp, and if it was a tiny face club like this, they only put the little stamp on it because they couldn't squeeze the big one on it. But it's an odd club, but it kind of suggests that they were just putting the stamps on stuff as they were sitting in the factory. Putting Clique. It looks very, very. This does look. It's got the notch. It looks a lot like the other clubs, and it's got enough loft on it so you can use that from quite a long way out, quite a long way from the green, and still use that perfectly. Use that perfectly. This is a gooseneck putter, which does have there's enough of a little kink there to show it's gooseneck. Again, there's nothing really else to shout that this is a Genii at all. Oh, this has got a Corsi grip. It's interesting. There is a ridge that runs down the bottom of the grip there to kind of align your fingers on the back of it. And this is just a standard putter. And again, there's very little special about that other than the stamps on the back of it. So that wouldn't shout out as being any different from anything else. But it's still got the stamps, so it still makes it a Genii. Lastly, this is the Cherokee. So this isn't a Genii, but it's designed by the same guy. So it's stamped H Logan, and it is just the most modern looking of Hickory putters that I found anywhere. With that alignment on top, it's absolutely beautiful. I need to reshaft it because it's horribly bent, but that would be really usable one day. Compared to the mills and things like that, they still look very modern, but the alignment on top of that, this guy feels like he was light years ahead of his time in golf club design, because there are various sort of little modern traits in some of these clubs that are still existing in clubs today. So I think that makes it a really fascinating little collection.